To the people of the city and the county palatine of Lancaster, greetings. Know ye, this day, November the 27th, in the year of our Lord, 2020, in the 69th year of the reign of Her Majesty, Queen Elizabeth II, Duke of Lancaster, will always be Lancashire Day. Know ye and rejoice by virtue of the Queen's county palatine of Lancaster, the citizens of the hundreds of Lonsdale, north and south of the Sands, Amounderness, Leyland, Blackburn, Salford and West Derby are forever entitled to style themselves Lancastrians. Throughout the county palatine, from the Furness Fells to the River Mears, from the Irish Sea to the Pennines, this day shall ever mark the people's pleasure in that excellent distinction. True Lancastrians, proud of the Red Rose and loyal to our sovereign Duke. God bless Lancashire and God bless the Queen, Duke of Lancaster.
Well, heck, ladies and gentlemen, happy Lancashire Day in whatever way you can and from wherever you are and however you're dressed. Please give it up for the wonderful Simon Entwistle for that rousing Lancashire Day proclamation. And it is a hoot from me. Now, Simon's speech was traditionally given by town criers across the county each November the 27th to celebrate Lancashire being called to Westminster by Edward I to take its seat in the Model Parliament way back in 1295. This is November the 27th. This is Lancashire Day, and this is Lancashire Business Week. I'm Richard Slater, and today is the culmination of a week of events that have taken a good look under the bonnet of Lancashire business. By the close of today's session, we'll have featured more than 30 fantastic guests and speakers. We've been tackling universal themes throughout the week, themes drawn up with the help of our patrons and supporters, opportunities and challenges, jobs and skills, well-being and inclusivity, leadership and change. And today, our focus is aspiration and celebration. And we have more top-line guests to have this conversation with. We also have a surprise or two, and we'll be opening up for networking at the conclusion. So do stay with us for that. Our job with Lancashire Business Week, indeed with everything we do at Lancashire Business View, is to shine a light on the county, to remind each other that everything we need to start, grow and exit a business is available here in Lancashire. We're also here to offer expertise, advice, opportunities, support. So if you can buy it in Lancashire, buy it in Lancashire. And for everything else, follow the mantra of our hashtag, be more Lancashire, and you won't go far wrong. And frankly, ladies and gentlemen, you really couldn't be more Lancashire than Stacey Turner, co-founder, managing partner at CG Professional, who I am proud and delighted to say are our headline sponsor for Lancashire Business Week. She's a business leader, an employment law specialist in a practice dedicated to corporate law. I caught up with Stacey earlier in the week. Happy Lancashire Day.
Happy Lancashire Day to you.
Welcome to you to Lancashire Business Week.
Thank you.
You are our headline sponsor for this event. Absolutely thrilled to have you here. But for the benefit of our audience, perhaps you could tell us a little about CG Professional.
Of course. So CG, we're a commercial law firm. Our head office is based here, where we are now in Chorley, Lancashire. We've also got a satellite office over in Manchester as well. And we did what many lawyers don't do. And just under 4 years ago, we set up a firm completely from scratch. The whole foundation of the firm is based on first-class customer service. That's our core principle. We couple that then with really talented lawyers with a commercial flair. And here you've got CG.
You have set up here in Lancashire. I realise there are family business connections here in Lancashire, but what made Lancashire the place for you to start and grow this business?
Purely down to the support, the local support. So we've got local clients, of course, who are fantastic. We've got an amazing local supply chain. So a lot of our suppliers are based here in the county. Chorley Council have been absolutely superb, I've got to say. They've been brilliant right from the get-go, right through the whole pandemic and everything. They've been great.
Lancashire Business Week. You've attended, I think, our events in the past.
Yes,
what's attracted you to take such a deep involvement this year in Lancashire Business Week?
It was a bit of a no-brainer for us, Richard, really, because why not celebrate how amazing Lancashire is? And, you know, as I said, right from the get-go for us as a business, you know, Lancashire has served us so well in terms of clients, you know, suppliers, you know, everyone we work with. A lot of people are based here in Lancashire, so why not celebrate that on Lancashire Business Week?
Today is about aspiration and celebration.
Yes.
What do you aspire to, Stacey, and what does CG Professional aspire to?
We've got absolutely massive ambitions, Richard, massive ambitions. And when I look back to when we started the firm 4 years ago to where we are now, you know, the growth has been phenomenal. We could not have planned that. We're surprised ourselves. The client base we've got, we have to pinch ourselves literally, but we're so ambitious. Why not go further? So if we look at our plans for the next few years, you know, sky's the limit for us. We simply want to be the go-to firm for corporate clients.
So just taking the aspiration one step further, you said that you couldn't have imagined 4 years ago that you'd be in this position.
Yeah.
I wonder if you, in 4 years' time, what do you think you will be reflecting on in 4 years' time?
Wow. We should have built bigger offices, maybe.
We're going to need a bigger boat.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Even with all the sort of agile working that we do, ultimately our culture is, you know, we're really social people. So we do love the working environment and working together as a team.
Stacey, thanks ever so much for celebrating Lancashire Business Day with us and for supporting Lancashire Business Week. Enjoy the rest of the day, enjoy the rest of your week, and I wish you all the very best.
Thank you, Richard.
Big thanks to Stacey and all at CG Professional who made us so welcome, and for being such a fantastic supporter, not just of Lancashire Business Week, but of Lancashire business in general. Our next guest has a wealth of experience from a career forged at BAE Systems, from apprentice to engineering operations and programme management, before retiring as Managing Director of Corporate Shared Services PLC and as a member of the UK Management Board. He now has a portfolio of non-executive roles in health, community and business environments. He's a passionate advocate for apprenticeships and an advocate also for improved mental health support at the workplace. Ladies and gentlemen, please would you welcome the Chair of the Lancashire Enterprise Partnership, Steve Fogg. Hi Steve, happy Lancashire Day to you.
Happy Lancashire Day.
Lovely to see you, Steve. I wonder, there's plenty we could talk about, but I think we perhaps should just start with a baseline position. Could you perhaps explain for our audience the role of the Enterprise Partnership, what's it for, and what its terms of references are?
Yeah. So the key word in the Lancashire Enterprise Partnership is partnership. So it's a body of business people, public and private sector, that come together to try and stimulate and drive inclusive economic growth across Lancashire. And bottom line, that's what it is. Now, there's a whole host of things we do that support and enable that, but as a good strapline, that's what we're here to do.
You've been in post 9 months, Steve. What were the early objectives and what progress are you making? And what kind of difference is the context of coronavirus making to all this?
Yeah, well, to be fair, Richard, I probably took over at the last quarter of last year. So, but time's flown in these dark times that we're in. And when we took over, it was very much reflect on the strength of what we built and what we've achieved. You know, there were a number of deals like the City deal, etc., that were put in place and were proven to be successful. So when I came, it was very much around what's the future for us? How do we set the future and how do we set the LEP up to take part in that? And so in January, we had an away day and we set a new strategic framework for Lancashire that has a whole host of strategic actions, key sectors for Lancashire. And we started to focus our minds on growth. Now, by the time you get to February and March, we're then in a lockdown. And then our whole world fundamentally changed to businesses need to survive, not grow. So we were into businesses falling away from us. We were into businesses desperate into survival. as well as some businesses creating opportunity out of the crisis. But, you know, it's just been dramatic, Richard, really. So it fundamentally changed our approach. You know, I saw the civil sector, it dropped out in manufacturing, really difficult. We've had to do some amazing things to try and support that.
So, I mean, advanced manufacturing is very much what we are internationally known for. And if advanced manufacturing is taking a battering through civil and perhaps at some point down the line some defence spending, what does that say about the state of our aerospace and advanced manufacturing sector, Steve?
Well, it's under extreme challenge, Richard. You know, if you look at the damage that's happened to the civil sector alone, you know, if aircraft aren't flying, people aren't buying new products. There's no spares or repairs. There's no maintenance. You know, the whole business just stops. And you then look at how that impacts the primes and the bigger businesses. But then that flows all the way through the supply chain, which is what Lancashire is really known for, providing a supply chain to aerospace and automotive. And it's been significant. And if we're not careful, we stand to lose around 30% of jobs in this sector. Now, for Lancashire, that's a dramatic impact for us. And for someone who's been born and bred in the aerospace sector, spent 40 years of my life working on all sorts of different elements of aerospace, it's a frightening prospect, not only for the economy, but for our heritage and what we're known for, as you say.
Some of our other big items, agriculture, tourism. You've created a series of platforms, I think I'm right in saying, or sectoral platforms. Which sectors are in your most under focus for the LEP right now, Steve?
Yeah, I would say tourism and hospitality, huge issue. I mean, just reach into Blackpool. It's a seasonal town. You know, it's been devastated by employment. But if you look at the hospitality sector across Lancashire, you know, we all know businesses, don't we, and business owners that are really struggling right now. Clearly advanced manufacturing, not just the air sector. We're very much focused on food and agriculture is another sector. But strangely enough, you know, food and agriculture's not been hugely damaged. I mean, if anything, there's been a real push to buy local. You know, to your earlier comments, you know, buy local, and that started to see the food and agriculture start to change. And we've got 6 platforms or 6 sector groups now made up of businesses. And I think that's the key point here, really. Because it's businesses that are going to grow the economy and get us out of this mess. And it's businesses need to sit around the table and work through the challenges they face in each and every sector and help us put the right interventions in place, give us the right advice and create the right asks back into government. And that's the spirit of it, Richard, really.
How far do you think we can, reflect on what you said, there are winning sectors. There are always winners in whatever environment there are. But other key sectors for you are the digital sector and energy and green energy. You would think that those areas are likely to receive some investment. How hopeful are we that Lancashire can benefit from those investments?
Well, I think we've got to position ourselves really, really well. And, you know, I think there's a great opportunity for the green economy. But of course, like all these things, can that grow at the rate the others get impacted by? And so there's this gap, really. So we've got to think more strategically and more ambitious, Richard. We've got to set ourselves up in a place. And that means collaborating with local authorities, universities, you know, the colleges, to get the skills running all the way through Lancashire that we need to be right at the forefront of the green economy. Digital's, you know, who knew we would be having this conference digitally? If you look at the health service, you know, it's probably gone through, and these are my words, I don't want to put words into their mouth, it's probably gone through 10 years of investment and transformation in digital in 10 months. You know, it's transformative there, really. So I think people will see digital with 2 sides of it, really. One, is it impersonal? Is it, you know, does it take out that physical thing that we all need actually to function and work well? But boy, does it bring efficiency, effectiveness, you know, and improvement in productivity. Yes, it does. So And some of the issues we've got is, are we breeding people with the right skills right from school age all the way through to take advantage? And we know what we can do with digital today. You and I could sit here and go, well, you could do this, you can do that. We need people to come through to reimagine the future in terms of how we use digital and change the face of our productivity and prosperity.
Thanks, Steve. And take us back to something you said 2 or 3 minutes ago, and it was you were reflecting how important you feel it is that the LEP and the various industrial strategies that we prepare are fed from the business community. Do you feel that's something that you're trying to introduce more into the county? That idea that it's I guess bottom up from the businesses.
Yeah, so you have to tackle these things bottom up, top down, and if you're not careful, it'll all come top down, and it'll come from policymakers, which may or may not fit what businesses need. So we must have a bottom-up approach to it also. And we need to run at pace with these things so that we can feed these ideas and insights into government. I have to say, Richard, governments have been very welcoming of our approach to taking sectors, getting businesses around the table. And it has been a pleasure to listen to them feeding back to us that they really want to listen to these interventions that we're going to propose. So yeah, it's vitally important that businesses are at the heart of all the decision making for Lancashire.
How will businesses judge if you're being successful? What benefits will the business community see in those circumstances?
Well, it's a bloody great question, and I wrestle with that myself, actually. You know, what does good look like for me, you know, as well? And I think, you know, if I go back 12 months, we had a strategic economic plan. We had the assemblance of a local industrial strategy. We had a board where we were losing key board members who were actually very, very influential in the strategy for Lancashire. We were changing chairs. We'd lost the chief executive. Yeah, you know, so for me, success has been, you know, we've got to get a new footing for Lancashire for the LEP. We've got to get a new chief exec that knows what to do. We've got to get a new team wrapped around her. The sector groups was born out of, it was born out of my office at BAE where I sketched something on a whiteboard, and anyone that came to visit me, I remember you coming and taking a picture of it at the time. Anyone that came to visit me, I gave them a pen and I said to them, you know, if we could make that better, how would you make it better? You know, and we had the CBI there, the Environment Agency there, anyone out of my office, frankly, who came in, whoever they were, I'd say, have a look at this. How would we make it better? So for me, the LEP is starting to reach out in terms of being inclusive and collaborative. I've reached out to all the business sector bodies that there are. So the Hive, Burnley bondholders, North West business leaders, chambers of commerce. And I'm trying to get the chairs or the presidents of the chambers of commerce to come round the table and start to talk about how we can collaborate and work together. So if anything, what I've done for the LEP is to make it more collaborative and inclusive of all the other networks and not just operate on its own, you know, reach out and bring others together. So a chair of chairs is the way I would describe it, you know, a group of chairs, I really mean, a group of chairs to sit around the table, be aware of what's going on across the other networks across the north and across Lancashire, but also on points of note where we need to lobby hard back into government, why not do it together, you know, and have a real bench strength for Lancashire that can go and fight our corner.
I like the idea, Steve, of the network of networks. I realise that there is competition in areas between the networks for membership or whatever it is. But we're kind of all on the same team, aren't we? And the objectives are broadly shared. I wish you well with that. I wonder, Steve. We often hear it's a common theme of conversation in the county. Why are we not as noisy as Liverpool? Particularly Liverpool, I'm going to say. Why are we not as noisy as Manchester? Well, Manchester has an economy twice the size of ours. Liverpool City Region's economy is no bigger than ours. I think it's about £500 million behind our economy. how do we, or do we need to get a bigger share of that voice? And I'll tell you what concerns me. And I think it's this: if we're not getting as much voice in the media, are we being heard as much in Whitehall, Steve?
Yeah, it's I have to say it's one of my biggest worries. So everybody will sit there and say to you, without a mayor, without a combined authority, we're not going to make a big impact and a big difference. But frankly, the most recent funding that came through for the Build Back Better fund, we did better than Liverpool. So there's some influence we can bring to bear. The answer isn't always a mayoral combined authority. And at the end of the day, it's for the political leaders of Lancashire to decide how they want to work together and what that needs to look like. It's not for me as the chair of Lancashire. We can have our own personal views, we can have our own thoughts, but at the end of the day, they have to work that through. And as a LEP, we have to work with whatever's there. But we have to shout harder, Richard. I must annoy some MPs and some ministers at the minute, because I will write to them, I will put thoughts in. And I had a great letter from Simon Clarke when he was the Northern Powerhouse Minister. He wrote back to me and just basically said, Steve, thank you for this. Thank you for the brief. Please keep doing it, because it is starting to inform us. It is starting to influence how we think. However we think, little inputs to them don't. They do. So we've got to keep doing it. And I think the LEP, I think the local council leaders, we've all got a role to play here to shout for Lancashire. But we've probably got to get more active in the media, and we've got to get more active at Whitehall and at Westminster. Now, of course, the challenge has been bloody COVID, hasn't it? It's stopped us. I'd have been on the train normally in my old job every week going down to London and back. So it would have been easy just to nip into Whitehall and nip into Westminster. Well, we can't do that today. But what I have found, it's very easy to get the Zoom meetings with people. So I'm starting to use this as a great avenue in to start the conversation. So watch this space. We've just got to be loud, be noisy, and shout our corner. And the recent piece of work we just did on the aerospace sector, where we published a new report, that went to all the MPs in Lancashire, and it went to all the ministers, and it went to number 10, and it will have gone into Rishi Sunak as well. And, it's really not just about the themes that we've applied in there, but it's about getting them to remember the North doesn't stop at Manchester. It's a really key point.
Thanks, Steve. I've got a question in from the audience. Can I remind you all, please do send us your questions via the chat box, and they will be forwarded to us and see if we can get through some of those questions. But I have one here, Steve. It kind of combines quite nicely with something I wanted to ask you. This is from Carol Garrett. We know Lancashire is a fantastic place to live and work and play. What's the LEP's strategy for encouraging inward investment, and how has that been infected? My word, that's a Freudian slip. How has that been affected in current conditions? So what's the strategy for encouraging inward investment? And perhaps side by side with that, Steve, and I'm looking at some of the big ticket items. We've got the potential for Eden Project North. We've got potential to benefit from HS2. There are other big ticket items. I wonder, how are we persuading people in, and what are we doing with what we've got already?
Yeah, so again, great question. And I know we've got a group later with Tony Attard on as well, Chair of Marketing Lancashire, and he would probably say the same. We've got to fight harder for Lancashire. We've got to push harder. We are looking at the minute of trying to bring an investment expert to come and join the LEP board as a non-exec member and help us shape our thinking through this process. But this year, quite frankly, it's been, Christ, how do we survive the next steps? But Eden, you are absolutely right. Eden's a huge key project for Lancashire, and we need to invest in that. But what we've got to take Eden as, we've got to start to look at Eden as more of a coastal strategy for that region, which will not only bring jobs, it'll bring education, it'll bring skills, but it'll improve tourism, it'll be an opportunity to visit. I think there's great opportunities there. But we've also got to reinvest in manufacturing, we've got to reinvest in skills. There's a whole host of things. the only way we're going to do it is if we can bring the universities, we can bring the colleges, and we can bring business together. And one piece of work we've just started with the universities is, if you can imagine the universities as a spine through Lancashire, all three of them. And I know we've got a campus from Cumbria as well in the north, in Lancaster, and they will be involved in this. And then we can imagine the two extremes of colleges. So Blackpool, which is an outstanding college, Burnley, which is an outstanding college. And I've met with them and some business leaders and said to them, look, we need to do something really smart with stimulating incubator hubs and accelerator hubs throughout Lancashire. Normally, you raise a great point. All these groups compete generally. They're competing for research or for funds. They've all agreed we'll collaborate on this piece of work. So, part of that is going to be a really exciting transformation for Lancashire. Can we build these across the network of Lancashire? And can we set them some really hard objectives to make a difference?
Thanks, Steve. Final question for you. What's your big aspiration for the county?
Look, my big aspiration for the county is I want to see people be educated in Lancashire, grow in Lancashire, be part of businesses, set up their own businesses, be successful in Lancashire, and then restart the food chain. That's what I want to see. I've been to so many sessions, Richard, where we talk about born and bred in Lancashire and successful in Lancashire, but we're bringing them in, some of them in from London. I look at Lancashire, my God, there's so many successful people in Lancashire already. And if we can bring those successful people together with the universities, with the colleges, with the schools, to work together on how we stimulate Lancashire for the future. And if we can encourage the people that do wonderfully well through our universities to set up businesses in Lancashire and grow in Lancashire and be successful, that's my vision, really. I just want us to be back on the map, and I want the north to end in the north, not at Manchester.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you can buy it in Lancashire, if you can learn it in Lancashire, if you can work it in Lancashire, and if you can play it in Lancashire, I think that's what Steve Fogg just said. Do all those things in Lancashire. Would you please thank, on all our behalves, fantastic Steve Fogg. Thank you for your time, Steve. Now, Steve's going to stay with us and join our first panel of the day. And I'd like to remind you that you can send your questions, as we have evidenced just now, through the panels, through the chat facility. So please, would you say hello to, live and in person, Stacey Turner, founder and managing partner of CG Professional. Would you also say hello to Iain Round, partner at Beever and Struthers, to Karen Buchanan, principal of Burnley College, to Karen Morris, Development Director at the Community Foundation for Lancashire, Tony Attard, Chair of Marketing Lancashire and Lancashire 2025, and I'm going to add on to that, Lancashire 2025 is bidding for the City of Culture. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome all and happy Lancashire Day to you all. Let me start. Can I start with you, Mr. Attard? Tony Attard, what are your aspirations for your organisation and the county's business community?
Oh, have you unmuted me? Sorry, it's all getting complicated.
Sorry, love. Would you like me to send somebody young round to help you?
Well, sorry, can you just repeat that question?
The question is this, Tony, what are your aspirations for your organisation? And I'm talking about Marketing Lancashire and its associated brand. I should say that Tony is the chief exec of Panaz as well, Panaz Fabrics. Yeah. But Tony, what are your aspirations for your organisation and for the county's business community?
Well, I guess that most of my aspirations sort of resonate with what Steve said, actually. One of the things I'm very conscious of with regards to my business is the retention and attraction of talent. We have to go quite a long way at the moment to actually bring in talent. But I'd like to make sure that we sort of nurture our own talent and we keep our own talent within Lancashire. And of course, attract great talent, because Lancashire is a fantastic place to live, as we know. We need to communicate that as much as possible. And of course, we do that with Marketing Lancashire and with our great universities. So those are the things I really want to do, but also, to attract really fantastic businesses to Lancashire as well, because we have a great skilled workforce in many areas, and obviously with the attraction of those people as well as key workers, we can join up the dots and make it a very attractive and economically prosperous place to live, work and play.
Absolutely. Tony, can you just on the City of Culture bid? I mean,
Yeah.
it's just starting to get some traction going now. What's the message? What's the message now to the business community about City of Culture? Because we're really excited about this.
Yeah, I thank you for mentioning that, Richard. It's an incredible opportunity, actually. And since we launched the consultation in the spring of 2018, we've been astounded by the enthusiasm that we've had from our cultural community of Lancashire, and of course the political and administrative leaders as well. And you probably know that recently we obtained £620,000 investment from Lancashire County Council to put the bid together. We've got a bid director in place, and we've got a very fantastic team who are joining with Debbie to actually launch this bid. And of course, since the pandemic, the bid has gained even more resonance, really, with reference to what our ideas are about future cities, and the change that Steve mentioned in terms of digital technology redefines what a city is. You know, if it's an opportunity to connect, influence, and communicate, everything's changed. You know, we envisage Lancashire as being part of a new future city that is so exciting. I mean, some of the stuff that's being put together at the moment in terms of, you know, digitally mapping Lancashire is incredible. And you know, we plan to utilize that massive change in people's perception on communication to our advantage with our new bid.
Thank you, Tony. Can I come to you, Stacey Turner, CG Professional? Stacey.
Hi, Richard.
Hi. Tony's talked about aspiration there, and I wonder, how do you focus, how do you keep your eyes on the ambition and the aspiration of CG Professional and of your client when there's so much distracting us right now on a day-to-day basis?
Absolutely. And I think we spoke about this, didn't we, Richard, in the sense that, you know, you're so entrenched in the actual work. And, you know, from myself and my fellow partners, we're still sort of feeling on a daily basis. But we just find we have to force ourselves to take ourselves away from that day to day, sit together and just focus on the business aims, the growth, the strategy. And it's hard to do that because actually as well, that's outside of our comfort zone as lawyers. We love doing the law, like that's my go-to, is doing the legal work, but actually doing the focus on the business strategy. You know, ultimately we have to really try hard to force that.
That's suggesting something interesting to me there. Well, you must have changed, I'm guessing, Stacey, over the last few months in the way you approach your role of leadership and pushing the business forward. How have you recognised the changes within yourself?
Yeah, it's been a challenge. I must admit, Richard, and I think, you know, for me personally, I am a really like social person, as I said in the VT, and I like speaking, working as a team with the guys here, and that was hard at a distance. And you know, for us as leaders, we have to really focus on keeping those lines of communication open. And just making sure that we're continuing to speak to the team regularly, you know, check in on general sort of welfare and again the work that we're doing, and it has been challenging. It really has.
Thanks, Stacey. I've got a lovely question in from Neil Welsh here, and this I'm going to point this to you, Karen Buchanan. Happy Lancashire Day, Karen.
Lancashire Day.
Happy Lancashire Day. Now, I think very aspirational, I think, and it's something we do touch on a lot. There's an aspirational aspect of generating better links between business and education. As a leading education figure in the county, Karen, how do you see us forcing better links between business and education, and why is it important? Is it a good aspiration?
Yeah, absolutely. Steve said, didn't he, that businesses are going to be the people who grow the economy, and they need to be at the heart of the decisions that are made for Lancashire. And actually, my route through education has been through 16 to 18, and we've focused on that. We have amazing support for students, and that has to continue because it's a tumultuous time for them, isn't it? It's an awful time for them. But what I have realised, that reaching out and actually talking to businesses getting them round the table and sitting there and saying, right, how can we help? What can we do is really key. So we're now, Burnley have set up an economic growth group, and Burnley College are a key partner in that. And actually what we've done is we've talked to the businesses, and things that are coming out are that they're having to make redundancies at these times. They're having to diversify their business. So we've worked with the job centre to try and get the people who've been made redundant reskilled, so that now that Vika are coming out of a downtime, we've got people reskilled in new polymer technologies that I know nothing about, but luckily the students do, because we had staff who could help there, and they've got a ready market for staff. So it's things like training, working with the job centre to support people to stay in Lancashire, you know, when the chips are down. So when they come up, they've got job opportunities that they can step into.
Karen, one of the things, I beg your pardon.
I was just going to say, it's also allowing businesses to use our facilities, because we've gone into robotics, automation, pneumatics, and actually some of the smaller businesses or some of the bigger ones who want to diversify are using our kit and equipment at a weekend and on a night, and students are helping them. So it's working quite well.
And is this part of what you are calling Project Recovery?
Indeed, Neil called it Destination Recovery, and I have to keep remembering.
Destination Recovery, my apologies to Neil Burrows.
But I keep wanting to call it disaster recovery, and he tells me that's not the right thing.
Aaron, have a word with the marketing team, they'll tell you why.
Yeah.
But it's an exciting project, because it again, I think this is another aspirational project, Destination Recovery. It is bringing the business community to the colleges and to the educational institutions. How can we make this work? Is that how, do you feel it? I feel it's more of a partnership than it's ever been, Karen. I don't know if you feel that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought we listened to businesses before, but we weren't listening. Our ears were shut, and actually just sitting around the table, looking in the whites of people's eyes. It's amazing, even via a Zoom call. It's amazing the really little changes we can do that make, like, the curriculum is really academic and old. So what we can do, the students have to get the qualification, but we can fast track them through that and build all these new technologies in for them that make them more employable and give them an experience with businesses locally.
Thank you, Karen. I'm going to move on to Karen Morris, if I may. Karen from the Community Foundation for Lancashire. Karen, your role is to gather funds and distribute funds to worthy causes across Lancashire. How have things changed for you as an organisation in that pitch for support from the business community?
Yeah, incredible. I mean, in March, we sort of all moved to working from home, same as everybody else has, thinking we'd just be taking over, and have actually been working harder and managing funds on a much larger scale than we ever imagined, and initially set up an emergency fund to help. So for us, particularly, what we do is we manage funds on behalf of individuals, businesses with their CSR, people who want to make a difference with charitable funding, but don't want the hassle of running their own charity or don't have the time, the resources to do that. What we found is certainly we've been completely overwhelmed with the managing emergency situation for the pandemic. We've raised just short of £2 million since March and given it out in that short time. That's more than we do in 2 years. So that's been incredible. For us, it's actually engaging and the strategic link back to businesses. And this is something that's really important to us. So there's a number of key themes that we were looking at prior to COVID hitting that have only been exacerbated. And I think everything that's been said by Steve and by Karen and Stacey in terms of the connections to business, I think one of the things that a connection that's missing at the moment is that link back to community and a strategic approach to supporting that. Because if you've got thriving communities, you've got thriving businesses. One of the key things that came out after the massive need for food provision, I mean, we're in the 21st century and over 50% of the funding we gave out has gone towards food projects, you know, and that demand hasn't gone away. After that, one of the key things that's come out for us is digital exclusion. So while we're talking about young people having access to education, young people taking up opportunities, you've had children all trying to get around one mobile phone in a house. families having to make decisions about, do they put the heating on, do they buy food, or do they pay for internet connection? Now, while opportunities being created in businesses, their job is to run thriving businesses and grow the economy. Unless people in Lancashire have got access to those opportunities, and it's an equal access, then we're never going to thrive and we're never going to achieve everything that we need. The other thing that's coming out loud and clear to us, and it's something I've heard Steve speak very well on, and something that we're linking into, is the whole mental health and well-being. So after food provision, the biggest demand that we've had on funds is to help people generally, just keep them, to help them with difficulties with mental health and well-being, and to prevent those problems. So it's again, how do we work hand in hand with business and education to address some of these issues? So while businesses, their job's to look after their staff, how collectively can we work together and look after the community, so people are in the right mental state to actually to have aspirations that they potentially could get these jobs and opportunities that are being created, that they've got the confidence to come forward, and then when they get into the jobs that they can cope with that situation. And some of that's young people, and others it's people who are losing their jobs, having to change their trades. How do we help them and support them to feed back into the whole business economy? So for us, the big difference has been, one, we need to continue to engage and we need help for the immediate here and now, but longer term, we need to keep the support going, and we need to work with business and education closer to make sure that the scarce funds that are around are used effectively, strategic, and in a targeted way.
Thank you, Karen Morris. That's very kind. I'm going to come to you in a moment, Iain Round, but I did see Tony Attard put his hand up, and I wondered if Tony wanted to interject. Perhaps
Yeah,
I might have misunderstood that signal.
Yeah, I thought Karen made some really valid points then. I'd just like to come in as part of the business community, really. Completely with Karen in everything she said. I mean, strategic connection with the community has never been greater than at this particular time during the pandemic. We've certainly reached out to a lot of people, a lot of organisations, by giving away, face masks and PPE and things like that, because we have a medical division, as you probably know, and the digital exclusiveness or exclusion aspect is something which has become very prevalent with reference, with regards to what's been going on, because obviously a lot of people have been working from home. We've been fortunate enough to be able to give a lot of our staff, computers to work from home. But with regards to our City of Culture bid, it's very much based on digital inclusion. And one of the things that we're going to be working really hard on is digital infrastructure within the county. And the City of Culture can be a major catalyst to that change. And that's something we're working on very, very carefully.
Thank you very much, Tony. Thanks very much. Iain Round, can I come to you? Iain, I've got an absolutely blinding question for you, and I'm not quite sure how we're going to fit it in anyway. I'm going to go give you this. This is from Andy Woodland. COVID has had a massive impact on the business in the North West. Have we taken our eye off the ball about what's coming on December the 31st, end of the EU transition period? And are we right to be aspirational and celebratory with that and COVID looming over us? Iain Round.
Thanks, Richard. Nice, easy one, that one. Thank you. There's lots going on, let's be brutally honest. As an accountancy business in Lancashire, we're dealing with clients who are dealing with COVID and dealing with Brexit. So there is lots and lots to look at on that front. So we're advising clients on all those matters. It's very difficult to advise clients on Brexit because it's not clear what's going to happen. So that's very, very difficult. COVID's a bit easier, Richard, to advise on, but yeah, it's difficult.
Well, let's put it a different. Let me reframe that. What are the things that are making your client base feel aspirational, and what are the things that are deadening their aspiration?
We've got a wide range of clients in different industries. So some are still dealing with the COVID implications. I've got clients who are travel agents. They've had no revenue for 8 months. That's tough for them. So they're concentrating on on COVID, but they're looking forward, that they're lobbying governments, they're lobbying MPs, they're lobbying council to try and open things up for them. And then I've got other clients who are doing really well. I've got one of my biggest clients, manufactures kitchens, bedrooms and bathrooms. They're doing fantastically well. People are not going on holiday, but buying kitchens, bedrooms and bathrooms. But they've got issues with Brexit. You know, how are they going to ensure that they can get their products in from Italy or wherever? So again, I've got a wide range of clients with all different needs. We just need to be there to help them on their particular need, Richard.
Yeah, I get that. How as a business is it affecting you? Are you able to keep your focus when there are these distractions?
It is very difficult, and a panelist has mentioned before. I've got a very good team who work with me, and I rely on them. I let them go ahead and make their own decisions, and sometimes make the wrong decisions, but I give them the freedom to do that.
Yeah.
That allows me and my fellow partners, we have a catch-up call on a Wednesday morning every week, and that's what we use for strategy, coming up with new ideas, and again, at that point, trying to not to get bogged down in the detail. So we keep 45 minutes free on a Wednesday morning for that strategy and aspirational work.
Fantastic, that, Iain. I wonder, Steve Fogg, if I could just come to you for a moment. Could you you've listened to our conversation here. You've listened to the voice there of people from within manufacturing, within the prof services sector, within education, within the third sector. How much of what you've heard just now, Steve, chimes with the ambitions or the aspirations of the LEP?
Everything, I have to say. I mean, Karen knows I'm a big supporter of FE colleges, linking them back into business. Karen spoke really well around mental health and the support for deprived areas, frankly. And I know sometimes people think we're doing this because it's a good thing to do. It's a bloody great thing to do, because there's a lost pool of talent out there that can come through for Lancashire and do great things for us. So, you know, if you don't get the moral arguments to do some of this work, get the business sense to it. You know, it's a great opportunity to do things. So when you look at, you know, across Lancashire, you look at Blackpool, for example, you sit there and you think, my God, you know, not only is it lost opportunity for people, and you have to put yourself in their shoes. I was brought up on a council estate in Liverpool. And if you only know the little narrow banded pool of the people you acquaint with, then that sets your ambition. So we've got to create ambition for young people of Lancashire and from all different parts of Lancashire, and be more inclusive and be more engaging and create opportunity for people. So, you know, I love everything that's been said here, and it chimes really well with my personal values and the values of the LEP. And I just hope at some point I can meet with you all, and clearly I meet with Tony already, but I can meet with you all to say, come on, how about joining me? And how about joining us in terms of how we bring some of this about? Because that's my main objective.
Thank you very much. I'm just very, very quickly and finally, I want to come to each of you for either, could you give me a quick fire answer to this question? Either a top tip for leading through these difficult times, something you've picked up over recent months, or something you've learned about yourself as a leader in the last few months. I'm going to come to you first, Mr. Iain Round.
Thanks, Richard. I've got a phrase that I use all the time with my people who work for me, which is check in with my colleagues, not check up on them.
Check in, not check up. That's superb. Thank you very much. Stacey Turner, top tip.
Sorry, I was muted, Richard. Similar to Iain, my top tip is just talk to your clients, talk to your customers, talk to your staff.
Thank you very much. Karen Buchanan, top tip.
Yeah, I mean, I think people's resilience and flexibility through these really unsettling times has really amazed me, and how people have gone on to support each other. So I think I would just say support and collaborate.
Thank you very much. Karen Morris, top tip.
Well, very similar to that, look after one another, we're stronger together.
Superb. Mr. Attard, sir, top tip.
It's a great opportunity to recognise some of the brilliant people you've got working in your organisation.
Fabulous. Thank you very much, Tony. And finally, Steve Fogg, one top tip to our audience on how to lead, how you've changed, or just a bit of advice.
Bring the human being into work. Don't leave it at the gate. Don't leave it at the office doors. Bring the human side into the office, and that will make a huge difference, I can tell you.
Thank you ever so much, Steve Fogg. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you to all our panelists, and we'll be back with another panel in a few minutes. Now, I promised you a surprise. You want to talk about Be More Lancashire? Well, our next guest is one of the great Lancastrians. I am delighted to share this exclusive Lancashire Day conversation with 7-time motorcycling world champion and king of the jungle. It's only flipping Carl Fogarty, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, Carl, to Lancashire Business Week. And what I want to talk to you about really today is just to see if I can get some links between the sporting world and the world of business. And I don't really want to force those links. Let's just see if they emerge. So let's start here. 7 world championships, including 4 world superbikes championships, a TT record that stood for 7 years. I wonder how much of your success was down to a winning mentality, Carl?
Oh, a lot of it, for sure. Yeah, I was very, very driven, very determined. God, I guess arrogant in some ways. My self-belief that I was going to be, a world champion, a winner of bikes was there from a very, very early age. And I'm not quite sure where that came from, really. Maybe it was because it was what I wanted to do. I think if you really want to do something badly, you'll want to do it better than anybody else. I think, I think I'm being brought up around motorcycles because my father used to race. That was the one thing I really, really wanted to do. There was nothing else in life that really, really interests me, to be honest. But also having the right team around you, I guess in some ways, it's the same in business, really. No matter how good I am, if I haven't got the right tools underneath me, i.e. the bike or the team to help me set up that bike, then I'm probably not going to win anything, to be honest, as good as I am. And, that happened quite a lot of years I was racing, really. Once I got the right bike, the right team, and I believe no one was going to beat me. But, you've got to work hard at getting it right. I think the hardest thing for me, I guess, in racing, really, was if I didn't do my hard work or my homework, on a Friday and Saturday, and Sunday, race day, wouldn't go very well. Sunday would go easy if I'd done all my hard work on Friday and Saturday, basically.
So we talked a little bit about your ambitions, and today's event. This is the 5th of a week-long series of events, Carl. And today's theme is celebration and aspiration. We've talked about your aspirations. We've talked about your ambitions. How did you like to celebrate, Carl?
I didn't even particularly enjoy racing bikes. I just love winning. Just crossing that line, feeling that feeling was just, and listening to the national anthem on the podium, and especially when you look at the fans, and I had a massive following of fans, especially in Britain, when you like 100,000, which has never been seen to this day, and probably will never be seen again. That I get goosebumps now even thinking about it. That was what it was all about for me. Not the money, just that moment when you cross that line, you've won. It was just no better feeling in the world. It was just an amazing feeling, and I never got sick of it. I just wanted it more and more and more, really.
Well, when business is pushed too hard, we're not going to fall off a bike at 190 miles an hour. That's one of the differences. But I suppose when businesses do push too hard and things don't quite work out, you go back to basics and reassess what it is you are. Is that what you had to take into your biking world? Just reassessing, starting again, replanning?
Yeah, I mean, the year after I was struggling again for motivation, really. I don't know what it was. Maybe I had a knee injury and I've had a bit of trouble with the back, and I was complaining about the bike or complaining about the work, because it might be you guys' case. And then he needed some harsh words from the people around me. He said, look, come on, get yourself together. You're still the best out there. It's not the bike. It's you. You need to focus on what you're doing. Stop blaming everything else around you. If you still want this, get out there and do it. If you don't want it, stop at home and stop wasting our time. And then harsh words from him. I picked up the backside. I thought, I'll show you. And I turned it all around in the last part of 1998 and won the world championship again. So, like in business, you do need, when things aren't going so well, I guess, you do need people around you talk to, or to give you that, you know, kick up the backside to sort yourself out and get your act together, you know, in a lot of respects.
We saw a really interesting version of competitive Carl in the jungle, Your Highness. Genuinely cannot imagine a bloke who used to go to work at 190 miles an hour being fazed by eating an ostrich's bum or a camel's willy. Seriously, what was it like in there?
Yeah, no, that's, I still have that competitive edge when I was doing something. I mean, I went in there not expecting to win it, but by a long way, I thought I'd be the first one out, to be honest. They'll not like me. I'll not like the people in there. They'll get on my nerves. I'll say something, blah, blah, blah. But I think I shot myself in there when I did it, really. But doing the challenges, yeah, 100% competitive still, because I want to win as many stars as I can, which, you know, more or less did every time. So I could bring it back to the camp. So again, it was like winning a race for the fans at Brands Hatch, 120,000 people. I wanted to win for them, not just me. So I was like, I wanted to win, be competitive, and whatever challenge is thrown at me there, just to get some food, because you're bloody starving there. Trust me, I'm absolutely starving. So as we could all have a bit of food, and then they'd be happy, you know. But the actual, I wasn't competitive in there in camp. I think everybody saw a different side to me than the person who thought they were going to see in there. There's this arrogant, self-obsessed winner who's a bit of a loner, but now I think, you know, I'm not really away from that. I'm almost a bit of a shy person in some ways, and you know, I was a much more of a team player that I thought I was, and tried to keep everything going in the camp and I always kept the fire going and boiling the water and collecting logs and stuff. And it's what I need to do to focus on my mind on something, you know. I need to be doing something, whether it's racing bikes or winning or collecting logs to keep a fire going. It's just that fear of being bored. I don't like being bored. I always want to be doing something, you know.
You were hugely entertaining in there. I think I'm right in saying that you won the vote pretty much every day for the 3 weeks we were in there. People really liked what they saw. Did that come as a surprise?
Yeah, it did. It really did. I just went in at the end and said, look, I'm going in there. This is me. I don't care what anybody else thinks. I'm not bothered at all. This is me. I'll be myself. And yeah, I was just myself. I'm at the end of the day, I just, like I've always said, I'm just an ordinary guy from the north of England, from Blackburn, who, you know, just like to have a laugh at himself, you know, just go out and simple things in life, go out for curry with the lads and a few beers, you know what I mean, watch a couple of films and go out playing on the motorbikes and stuff. And that's it. Even though I know I'm a famous person, obviously that kind of thing, but as long as I don't believe that, I'll always be okay. And I think that's what came across. I think that's what usually comes across to people who do win that show, that they don't think they're anything bigger or better than anybody else, and you shouldn't do. And maybe I did in the late 90s, early noughties. I probably did. It probably did go to my head, the success a little bit, you know. But no, it's everything went really well, to be honest.
Yeah. You could choose to live anywhere in the world, and many people who race for a living do choose to live all around the world. But throughout your racing career and since, Lancashire has been home. What do you love about living, working and playing here in Lancashire, Carl?
It's just home, isn't it? And that's all I can say, really. My family and friends are here. You know what? I don't know. It doesn't. The weather thing don't bother me. If it did, if it does, I go on holiday a couple more times a year or whatever. But I don't know. I think when I became successful, I already had the two girls, and I didn't want to like disturb their upbringing and school and that kind of thing by going, I don't know, like Monaco or the Isle of Man or something like that. But I just bit the bullet and stayed here, and I'm still here now. They won't let me leave now. Road named after me, so I can't leave, can I?
You can't. No, you can't leave. It's a very pretty road as well, Carl.
Nice road. It's the best road in Blackburn, obviously.
Best road in Blackburn. If you've not driven around Carl Fogarty Way, drive around Carl Fogarty Way. If you've not driven around Blackburn, if you do it for long enough, you see Carl Fogarty driving around in a transit van. And that's why we like Carl Fogarty. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been an enormous pleasure having Carl join us for Lancashire Business Week. Carl Fogarty, thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Cheers. Pleasure.
That was so much fun, that interview, ladies and gentlemen. Carl, the absolutely fantastic Carl Fogarty. I mean, there's so much you could take away from that chat, but I'm going to go with this one. Who needs Monaco when you've got Mella? Now, that line takes some beating. Right, let's move now to our second and final panel conversation. And would you please welcome First of all, Annette Weeks, Managing Director of PDS Engineering, and Dave Walker, Managing Director of Plus 24 Marketing, today representing Burnley.co.uk or Burnley Council. We've also got in the house Melissa Conlon, Commercial Director of AMRC North West. We have Julian Parvin, Director of Partner Business and Marketing at Daisy Communications. We have Jamie Grimshaw, Investment Executive at FW Capital. And we have Andrew Leeming, Senior Project Officer, the face and very much the beard of Boost, the county's excellent business support hub. Good morning to you all, and happy Lancashire Day.
Happy Lancashire Day.
Melissa, can I come to you first? Melissa Conlon, the AMRC, Advanced Manufacturing Research Centre. What are the aspirations for your business? And I'm thinking this week I'm starting to see things come out of the ground and rise into the air. It's looking like a building, Melissa. What are your aspirations?
I think if you'd asked me 2 weeks ago, I'd have said, you know, we aspire to actually get some steel work on now. So we've achieved that in the last 2 weeks, thank goodness. I think our aspiration is to develop and grow our capabilities in advanced manufacturing technologies and techniques for the benefit of, you know, Lancashire manufacturers of all shapes and sizes. We want to support manufacturers to embed and de-risk new technologies so that they can actually compete in the global economy. And I think we want to really kind of embed ourselves into the local business support networks and be really on the ground supporting manufacturers, and also work in collaboration with all of our HEIs to actually bid for funding and bring new funding into the region to actually create that wealth and actually create high value manufacturing jobs. I think also we've got to play a pivotal role in the creating inward investment and bringing inward investment into the county, particularly on the enterprise zone, but also the wider county. And I think just going back to something Steve said, you know, that the civil aerospace sector has been really hard hit, as has the automotive sector. So I think, you know, what we're aspiring to do here is really to create a region of really agile manufacturers who can actually pivot into any supply chain. If you think about, you know, what Boris said this week about the 10-point green plan, so this green industrial revolution, you know, we are actually prime position here to produce the products for that actual revolution. You know, manufacturing is actually in our DNA. We should be grabbing the lion's share of that and bringing that production into into Lancashire area.
Thank you, Melissa. Talking of manufacturing being in the DNA, Annette Weeks is in the house. Annette, manufacturing and engineering is certainly in your DNA. What are your aspirations and what are your current challenges, Annette?
Our aspirations as a business. So, well, prior to COVID, we had a couple of plans for this year. One was to get into 3D printing, and the other was to take on our own fabrication and welding arm. And despite COVID, we have done both of those things. You know, maybe 2 or 3 months later than we would have liked, but we have still managed to crack on and achieve that. For sure, it's been more challenging. We're spinning lots of different plates, and we're working for different sectors and different industries that 12 months ago were not in the strategy. But that's kind of what you've got to do at the moment with the COVID situation.
You've done some interesting things in the past month or 7, Annette. Do you want to tell us a couple of the way? Let's talk about this. One of the themes that's come up this week has been collaboration. You have driven collaboration in response to COVID. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so back in March, with Lancaster University, we set up the COVID manufacturing group. So we've got about 80 members who are manufacturers across the region who came together to say, you know what, we can help supply the NHS shortages. So these are not manufacturers that previously worked with the NHS. They're people that are doing other things that have redeployed and used their capacity where perhaps they'd a downturn in their own industry, and they could turn around and said, hey, we can actually make this stuff that is a genuine shortage for the NHS. So it was brilliant to see that, because at the time, sort of March, April, May, when the NHS hospitals could not get protective equipment, it was wonderful to see the collaboration of people coming together to do that. And then obviously over October half term, again, you know, with the holiday school dinner situation. So myself and Paul Wyatt on a Friday afternoon saying, you know, it's ridiculous that local kids are not going to get school dinners over the next week. And in 3 days, we turned that round and we fed I think we produced 15,000 meals out from a standing start, but that was done entirely through collaboration and through using network and being prepared to ask people to help. And you know what, at the moment, it's so wonderful to see people coming together as a community to do things together, whether that's in business or whether that's to help out with hunger and charitable issues. It's really good to see.
Thank you very much, Annette. Dave Walker, you're from Plus 24 Marketing, but here today representing the borough of Burnley. How do you, it would be fair to say, I think, that the borough of Burnley has perhaps been one of the noisiest boroughs in the county over the last 10 years in terms of its business story. And I wonder, with so much to distract you now, Dave, and to distract our attention, how do we keep a focus on that big Burnley story that's been so impressive?
It's a great question, but it's incredibly important that we do keep shouting. We spoke earlier about Lancashire being loud and proud, and it's exactly the same for our respective towns and cities. We've got to keep spreading the message. There's some incredible businesses in Burnley across a number of different sectors, and it's so important that we shout about that. Thankfully, we've got a Premier League football team, although not in a great place at the moment. but it, that does help to raise the profile of our town, and I do think that has helped over recent years. But there is a great group of businesses, and the bondholders that was set up, I think it was over 10 years ago now, has been, it's done wonders for our local economy and raising the profile of Burnley, and to invite inward investment. And we've got to continue, irrespective of the distractions. We can't let that be an excuse to stop shouting.
These distractions are not going to get in the way of your happy place, are they, Dave?
Absolutely not.
happy place. No, I can't finish that off now. I just can't say that. Julian, welcome, Julian. How are you from Daisy Communications? How are you doing today, sir?
Yeah, very good, Richard.
Happy Lancashire Day. I want to ask you this one. I want to ask you a challenging one, if you don't mind.
Okay.
This has been a question that has sustained me for a number of months, and it's drawn out some interesting answers. I wonder, what have you learned about yourself as a leader over recent months, sir?
Oh, okay. I think it's been a massive learning curve for me personally. So my role within Daisy Communications is twofold. So I look after the marketing function, but I also manage our partner business channel, and I have two very disparate, very separate teams. And pre-COVID, I kind of sat between the two of them and relied on a management structure to keep those two functions operating the way that I needed them to, and be able to report through me up to the main board. I think through COVID, what I found is I've become much more involved in the day-to-day and hands-on. And as a result, what's become apparent is that I have a much greater relationship with the people that are within those teams. And ultimately, what I've found is that the talent pool that's been available to us that already existed within the business, not just in my area, but across the business as a whole, is far greater than we ever gave it credit for. And I think, for me personally, and for my fellow board members as leaders, what we found is that the relevance and importance of employee engagement is exponentially just gone through the roof in comparison to where we perhaps thought we were previously. And it's given us the opportunity to take a long, hard look at ourselves as a business, to look at our culture, to look at our values, to look at our vision, and really take a sense check and come back to the fact that while we're a technology business and we're a high tech, and we are about enabling organizations to work collaboratively through communication technology and through IT, at the core of it, actually, the thing that really matters is our people.
Absolutely. Jamie Grimshaw from FW Capital. I wonder if you could talk about, again, as aspiration and celebration is the theme of today. What are the aspirations of your client base as they come to you looking for finance? How have businesses changed in their approach, or have they changed in their approach?
Well, in the last few months, really, businesses have struggled with where to turn to, really, for financial support. The attitude and appetite of a lot of the big banks has been quite closed as they focused on their own client base, and that has tied up a lot of advisors as well. And working from home has brought its own challenges for those major banks and advisors as well. So companies have they've obviously had periods of panic, concern. I mean, Iain mentioned before about some businesses doing phenomenally well, and how do you manage that, and how do you control that in a COVID environment and things. So there's been all kinds of very, very different success stories and people who struggled. You know, different sectors have been particularly badly hit, which is sad to see. And, you know, we remain in this tier 3 lockdown in the majority of Lancashire and things at the moment. So, you know, from my point of view, businesses have tried to remain positive. They've tried to diversify. They've tried to adapt to whatever it is they can throw at themselves, whether it's changing what they make, changing who they make it for, changing the supply chains, reviewing their operations. And, you know, COVID has given quite a lot of businesses the opportunity to review what they do, how they do it, why they do it. And that goes for finances as well. We've had to have a big look at how we deliver for our customers. How do we physically see them when we're used to driving maybe hundreds and thousands of miles a year? Now we're restricted to online communications. How do we make that work for our customers? How do we get them to sign a document? You know, how do they get legal advice? All these kind of things you've had to adapt and think really quickly. And in the majority of cases, everyone's been fantastic. You know, the change in the way they do things overnight in some cases has just been phenomenal, really.
Thanks very much. Andrew Leamy, can I come to you? Andrew, I think you not that you represent, you work with businesses right across the county, and there must have been a big shift that you can recognise. I'm aware that in the first, I think, 12, 14 weeks of the first lockdown from March onwards, you took maybe 6,000 or 7,000 calls from businesses in Lancashire. I wonder if you could give us an idea of how the needs of businesses in the community that you serve, how those needs of businesses have changed over the recent months.
Okay, I think the simple answer to that is, in terms of our support agenda, the support has become a lot quicker. People have come with very particular issues that they want resolving, and it's not allowed us sometimes to have that ongoing relationship, because they come in with a challenge and issue, we've helped them, we've tried to resolve it, we've put them onto the right support, but they haven't always got the bandwidth or the capacity to go off and do the longer term stuff. So we're finding we're working with lots more businesses than we were, but they're shorter term interventions. So as you rightly said, we've worked with about, just during COVID, about 7,000 businesses have been touched by the support services we've got. If you put that in perspective, since we started with Boost back in 2015, we've probably worked with about 7,000 businesses on a longer term agenda. So Richard, one of the reasons for this celebration was about trying to think of what is positive about Lancashire. So I've done some reasons to be cheerful. So the first one is there's a growth hub, there's Boost in Lancashire. It's here to support and listen to you. And we never stopped wanting to do that.
Can I just say, by the way, Andrew, I'm going to chuck something in there. Any problem you've got, any business issue, doesn't matter what it is, just if you're having a bad headache, call them. Seriously.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry, Andrew.
So the other thing to remember is every single person that works to support businesses wants to support you, wants to work with you. You've just got to find those people that you love working with. So go off and do it. In terms of Boost, the focus is and always will be growth. But at the moment, resilience and critical support is also available to help you get back to that growth agenda. It's worth remembering that Boost won a B2B marketing award campaign for its Ask for Help work through the Northern Marketing Awards. We've worked with over 7,000 businesses. Remember, if you're in Lancashire, we've got universities, we've got people, we've got skills, we've got training, we've got supply chains, we've got Lancashire grit. That's what's going to help us push through this. There's 35 at least programs of support. All you need to do, pick up the phone. We will help you find those people. But more importantly, there's a whole bunch of new support coming on. So we've got peer-to-peer networks being launched. We've got 17 delivery partners delivering 35 cohorts of at least 8 to 12 people on each cohort. We've got EU transition help and support. So if you haven't been looking, come and talk to us. We'll help you understand what you need to do. We've got a COVID risk tracker where you can go off and understand. There's new developments happening in terms of the office around Chorley, Lancaster, Rosendale. There's loans, there's financial support, there's resilience workshops, and At the end of every week, I produce a weekly report for government that then puts up to government to help inform what good practice looks like. That goes across the 38 growth hubs. So there's tons of stuff.
Andrew, everybody, Boost has got to be your first. The business support landscape is a tricky one, but it becomes a lot less tricky because you just need one number, Ring Boost. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to move us on. I've got time for one more question. And I'm going to use a question. I'm going to kind of play with it a little bit. But this is a message from our dear friend, Christina Cope. Let's start with Dave Walker, because you started this. Dave Walker, where is your happy place?
Well, I think my happy place at the moment is on Zoom with my team and colleagues. You know, we miss the office like everybody does. So I guess we get together and we have a quiz every Friday and try and get some level of banter going between us. So yeah, that would be my happy place at the moment.
Thank you, Melissa Conlon. Where's your happy place?
My happy place is out there with the SMEs, actually helping them, getting to know their businesses and seeing how we can actually transform them.
Julian Parvin, where's your happy place? Julie, can you hear me? Jamie Grimshaw, where's your happy place?
There's probably a few, to be honest, Richard. I've got to say at the moment it's on the beach in St Anne's where I am now. It's a fabulous place all year round. Can't beat it, really.
And Andrew Leeming, where's your happy place?
Walk and talks out in the country, just talking to businesses and partners. That's where it's at. And snatched face-to-face COVID secure meetings, 100% every time.
Julian Parvin, can you hear us?
Yes, I can, Richard.
Julian, where is your happy place?
My happy place at the moment is sitting in a car going to get my kids for the first time in 2 or 3 weeks through lockdown.
Oh, good man.
But aside from that, I think my happy place is looking at just the great work that's coming out from not just my team, but just people in general, as people are reacting and responding to the situation, and just showing that the resilience and the capability and the talent that we have around us is boundless.
Thank you. In answer to Christina Cope's first question, the answer is yes. Her second question was, where is everybody's happy place? I'm going to say I've got two happy places. My happy place today is in this little TV studio in Rossendale with my friends at Big Tank Productions. But generally, my happy place is Lancashire, ladies and gentlemen. Would you please thank all our panelists for their contributions? What a fantastic chat we've had. Now, I think we have time for just one final guest, and this is a treat. There are some people in this world who seem to be here solely for the purpose of making it a better place to be. I've never come away from time spent with this man feeling anything other than somewhere between better and brilliant. He has corporate and public sector clients around the world. He's worked with some of the biggest names in sport. He's the head honcho at I2I, the go-to guys for leading positive corporate change. And we're just going to roll the dice. Michael Finnegan, we are going to let you off the leash. Michael Finnegan, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you very much, Richard. Before I start with a few words of wisdom from me, I just wanted to remind ourselves of some of the beautiful pearls of wisdom we've heard this afternoon. I've taken so many notes, and I hope we all have. Let's go from the top. Stacey, first of all, said, look, let's have massive ambition like she has for her business because the sky's the limit. Richard, you then said, Stacey, you're going to need a bigger boat, which I thought was a fantastic comment. Steve then said, let's take opportunity from crisis, reimagine the future, and let's keep collaborating. I love that. Tony said it's all about talent and businesses. Karen Buchanan is there to help reskilling us. And Karen Morris said, listen, let's keep thinking strategically. Let's realize that still today we have families facing tough decisions, and even then fighting to win the mental fight. Iain reinforced that by talking about the ups and downs of life. And then we met Foggy, the man with so much drive and self-belief, who reminded us it's all about the team and hard work. And I loved his point about the honesty when you need it to kick you up the backside and get you refocused on winning, which is what always drove him. He made me think we have our head in the clouds, but our feet very, very firmly on the ground. Thanks, Foggy, for that. Melissa then said, let's compete globally. Annette reminded us that COVID has not stopped her from cracking on. Why should it stop us? Dave said, keep shouting. I love that, Dave. Julian talked about the power of relationships with his people proving to be exponential. Jamie said, remain positive and let's adapt. And Andrew said, yes, let's work quickly. And he gave us so many reasons to be cheerful. I ran out of paper. Thank you all for your inspiration. So what are my final words today? They fit perfectly with what you've all had to contribute. I often go back to some of the words in this beautiful poem by Rudyard Kipling. I've just picked out a couple of stanzas from it that I think you'll really like. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. He then goes on to say that if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it is, which is more, you'll be a man, my son. So the sons and daughters, the men and women of Lancashire, we've heard from you today. The future is yours. We're not sure how far we are through the 60 seconds of the minute. We know we're probably about more than halfway through, maybe into the last 15 or 20 seconds, I would think now. So we just have to dig in. Two people I've been reading about recently, the fathers of modern strategy, von Clausewitz and von Moltke, two generations of Prussian generals, looked for leadership in their people in two ways. First of all, intelligence, and you've shown plenty of that in these last 9 months or so. You would not be here if you didn't have that precious commodity. You couldn't possibly make that happen. And secondly, you have demonstrated incredible courage. You must keep doing that. Keep the courage at the front of your mind in these last 15 or 20 seconds of COVID, whatever that might be. Now then, we've played with some metaphors. We've talked of green shoots. I think earlier on today, Stacey and Richard were having a chat about needing a bigger boat. And one metaphor that I've found really useful that I've reminded people of in these last few days is that a rising tide floats all boats. And trust me, a rising tide is coming. It's on its way. We just have to keep digging in. It's not far to go now, and we will all be there together to benefit. And I want us all, in 1 year from now, on the 27th of November, 2021, to come back together once again to celebrate Lancashire Day, not remotely as we are now, but together, hugs, kisses, the whole 9 yards, celebrating what makes Lancashire, as always, so very, very special. So come on, bring on 21. We'll see you there.
Absolutely fantastic. Michael, you still there? Are you still there, Michael?
I'm there, mate. I'm there.
Oh, do you know
yeah, I'm
what?
here.
What a way to finish. Flipping heck, mate. I don't know what to say. I'm utterly uplifted. I'm kind of bouncing. All I want to do is get out of this room and go running around now, because you've absolutely done exactly what you were meant to do, which is make me feel somewhere between better and brilliant. Thank you, Michael. I'm sure our audience will love it too. What a way to finish. The thank you. Go on your bike. Thanks, Michael. Thank you to the irrepressible Michael Finnegan. Well, we've not quite finished because we will be opening up for networking in just a moment or two. But let me say my final thank yous first. To our panelists, Aaron Buchanan, Aaron Morris, Tony Attard, Iain Round, Dave Walker, Melissa Conlon, Annette Weeks, Andrew Leeming, Julian Parvin, and Jamie Grimshaw. Thanks to our speakers, Simon Entwistle, Stacey Turner, Carl Fogarty, Steve Fogg, and the fantastic Michael Finnegan to close us off. To our patrons for their support and for their guidance on, I'm going to say that again. To our patrons for their support and for their guidance on our themes. Really helpful with those. Thank you. Thank you to you all. AMRC North West, Beever and Struthers, Burnley.co.uk, Burnley College, Community Foundation for Lancashire, Daisy Communications, FW Capital, Info.O Group, Lancashire 2025, bidding for the City of Culture, and of course, PDS Engineering. We've had some other help from marketing and other partners, and they are Utility Group, Downtown in Business, Lancaster and District Chamber of Commerce, and Love Local Networking. And finally, of course, our headline sponsor, CG Professional. You can read about this session online at lancashirebusinessview.co.uk from about an hour from now, I imagine, where you'll also find reports on all this week's events, and you'll soon be able to watch again on our YouTube channel. There's an extended feature on Lancashire Business Week, which will be in the February edition of Lancashire Business View, and I'm very, very much looking forward to sharing your insight with our 50,000 readers and viewers. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we promised you expertise, experience, and insight. I think we've delivered, and I'm proud of that. Our next big event is the Lancashire Doing the Deal conference in January. We'll be digging into the art of buying and selling businesses. And a week on Monday, December the 8th, we will be launching the 2021 edition of the Red Rose Awards. And the last advert from me, Lancashire Day this year coincides with Black Friday, and we're not missing out. For one day only, you can get a free month-long subscription to LBV Hub. And that is the end of my advertisements. Now, if you will bear with us, we will open up for networking. In the meantime, I've been Richard Slater. If you can buy it in Lancashire, buy it in Lancashire. Thank you all. It's been a hoot. Be more Lancashire.